It's 5:50, so you guys want to release John? Release John? Okay, everyone, John, we're going to release you because we don't have a quorum.
Thank you.
Everybody, so everybody knows, Andre Baker, we know for some time, has a scheduled fundraiser this evening, so it's understandable that he's not here with us today.
And Kevin McSpirit was called to a business meeting, was unable to attend.
In the city. So as far as Dennis Bradley, Joe Larkovic, or Dave Hennessy, they never even so much as responded or let us know they would not be here, which as parents, I think you should take that to demonstrate that potentially they have no interest in being here today. So we cannot take any action tonight. We're going to continue to go through this information with you and answer questions. You will, same protocols, if you want to speak, you need to raise your hand to be recognized. No outbursts, no yelling, no screaming. And we're going to ask everybody to shut your phones off or turn them to vibrate, please. And really, for the first portion around the District PAC Executive Board, if you're a current District PAC Executive Board member or previously one and you have insight into what we're discussing, you may raise your hand and we'll be recognizing you. Okay? Okay, so the first thing I want everybody to look at, if you can, for the district. Yeah.
Could we go through the district PAC executive members?
They can introduce.
I don't know all of them. Can
Okay.
we just have them go through and just
introduce yourselves?
Edward Hilario, financial secretary.
Michelle Martin, corresponding secretary.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Nagina Aratona, and I'm seated as the Vice President of the Executive District PAC.
Cynthia Infante, recording secretary.
Rosie Jones-Clark, and I'm the DCCR.
Stay there. I'm going to work on the other side. Good luck.
Okay. So the reason we called this meeting was really, there have been issues around the District PAC for some time, whether it was the previous District PAC Executive Board, the current District PAC Executive Board, the emails, you know, that have been flying around and so forth. So I think, especially for Ben, and Ben, who's fairly new and was not here, and some of you weren't here, I just want to explain that the District PAC has existed in Bridgeport for, I believe, 47 years now. Is that correct? 47 years, and for 46 of those years, neither the Board of Education or the administration ever interfered in the parent organization. That was a long-standing practice because a parent organization should be run by the parents. It's bottom-up, grassroots, not the board or the administration telling the parent association what it can and cannot do. Okay, so on the Friday before Monday, February 23rd, 2015, there was a notice posted that there was going to be a meeting held at Skane School, which in my 6 years involved in the board, we've never had a meeting at Skane School. For those of you who don't know, it's all the way up Madison Avenue, making it difficult for a lot of parents who don't have transportation to get there. It was held on the Monday of a regular board meeting. But they purposely scheduled a special meeting because under state law, during special meetings, no public comment is allowed. So even though there was a regular meeting, they scheduled it before the regular, which means nobody got to speak about what they wanted to do as a board, okay? And this was the night before a major election in the city. For those who remember, Andres Ayala had been promoted to DMV commissioner, and so half the city's state senate seat was vacant. And also a state rep who represented the Black Rock North End area was promoted to a judge, so her seat was vacant. So about 75% of the voters of the city were participating in a major election the very next day. So, you know, people were obviously distracted and involved in other things. So you have, for those who have the packet, you'll see that agenda right here in front of you. And it says, discussion and possible action on District PAC leadership. Nothing about schools. District PAC leadership, okay? Now, if you turn to these transcribed minutes, okay? And I'm going to ask you, yeah, do you have a question?
No, first of all, there's a pack
well, I didn't do it for them. I didn't do that for them.
You didn't?
No, because what I gave them was better. There are minutes of this meeting on the school's website, but this is so much better because it's literally word for word, every single word that was said, okay? So if you look, it really starts on page 3, but if you really get into the text, page 5 really is where the interim superintendent. So I paid.
We have copies?
No, I only made copies for the executive board and the board members. I'm sorry, Linda. If you, will you give them back to me after you're done? Because I paid for this at my own cost. Then you might want to take one of each if you're going to follow along.
Well, these are the minutes.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so if you look at page 5, that's where the interim superintendent, Ms. Rabinowitz, was describing what she meant by district PAC leadership. And she defines it in that paragraph that's highlighted. And then if you go to page 6, at the bottom, she's describing that she felt that the board and herself needed to take action because there was a proposed bylaw amendment being developed solely by the District PAC Bylaws Committee that worked through the, she was trying to imply that there was a new bylaw being created when that wasn't the case. In the summer of 2013, after an organization that was funded by a billionaire from Greenwich called Excel Bridgeport tried to take over the parent organization, the parents that summer chose at their own option to establish a bylaws committee. They met the whole summer. To be clear, I never was part of a meeting. Ms. Baraka, were you part of a meeting or any involvement in that? I wasn't either. And so there was this attempt to say that board members were there influencing it, which is completely false. And they created, amendments to their bylaws, kind of tightening them up about, who could participate on the executive boards and who couldn't. And when they returned in the fall, those proposed amendments were given to every school president at the monthly meetings that are held at the Parent Center. Parents had, and Eric Alisea was the president at the time, and you'll correct me, Eric, if I'm wrong?
I was the chairman of the bylaws
Committee at the time?
Yeah.
Where they went out to because Janet had resigned the first day.
Yeah, but officially I didn't become president of the PAC until September.
Okay, so that's when they were set.
One of the rules that we changed is that the new president becomes the president in June, so that you have the summer to work. So we went without a PAC president for the whole summer.
Oh no, she resigned right when school returned.
Yeah, I know, but that's when she was supposed to take a position.
Right. So what I'm saying is, in September is when you guys introduced this. You were the president.
Yeah.
So these were introduced, these bylaw amendments at that meeting, and parents of each school were told to go back to their school and give feedback from their parents, and also to submit any questions to Eric through email or so forth. It's my understanding, Eric, that you only got questions from one parent who happens to be sitting in this room, I believe, and it was just some clarification questions.
Correct.
Okay? And so then they came back that following month. They did not have a quorum, so they could not take a vote. So they had another full month to go out and get feedback. And then it was taken to a vote the following month where it passed unanimously with one abstention, which was Lenore Foreman, who was the Central High School PTSO president. Do I have everything right so far? Mm-hmm. I'm giving you just some context for the people who are newer, okay? So what I'm saying here is that this did go through a process where every school president and each school had an opportunity to vet those bylaws and decide whether they wanted the amendments or not. But it passed unanimously with one abstention, okay? So I wanted to rectify that. And then if you go to page 8, this is where the interim superintendent is making recommendations, basing that that district PAC executive board was disenfranchising parents and denying them their First Amendment rights by banning them from serving on a school PAC or PTSO district PAC executive board. To be clear, every parent who has a child in the Bridgeport Public Schools was a member of the PAC. The issue at hand was that if you were on the board or on a committee or a paid employee of another education organization in the city, you could not serve on a school PAC executive board or a district PAC executive board. So nobody was being told you can't be a member of the PAC. Yes, everybody was a member of the PAC. You just couldn't serve in an executive board capacity, okay? And let's see, and then if you go to page 10 through 12, This is the actual formal resolution that was read into the record by Andre Baker, word for word. So really, it doesn't really matter what all the other conversation was. This is what the board voted on. And if you look, the red one portion underlined, the Board of Education no longer recognizes the executive committee of the district PAC. Not the current executive committee, not this executive committee. The executive committee is no longer recognized. She goes on, that resolution goes on to say the same thing on page 11, on line 2. On page 11, line 6. If you see here in line 6, the executive committee of PAC for district directing all referrals to the district PAC bylaws by eliminating them from its policy statement on parents and family engagement in the Bridgeport Public Schools. So they voted any reference to any district PAC bylaws was gone. There were none. They didn't exist. Okay? Not in our parent engagement policy, not running a PAC, not in our board policies. They were null and void and no longer existed. Okay? And that's in the language. Then it goes on to say the board, if you look at the page, line 19, it says the board hereby establishes and recognizes a new district PAC, which will be composed of the president of each school PAC and PTSO or his or her designee in your absence, okay? And, you know, the rest of it is really about the parent center and who's going to help you when you need assistance and so forth. And the reason this is relevant was apparently, and there's a lot more to read in here. You know, there was a lot of allegations that had no basis in fact. You know, and really, I can assure you that the reason the District PAC Executive Board was eliminated after 46 years of existence was because the majority of that District PAC Executive Board did not support the majority of the school board members, nor did they support the interim superintendent. And we were clearly expressing that at public comment during board meetings and writing letters to the Connecticut Post, which is called freedom of speech. We're all entitled to that, okay? So does anybody else on the board have anything to add at this point?
Well, I think that what Ms. Pereira is trying to do is just clarify really the reason that we're here is that, as Ms. Pereira said, for 46 years, the board was not involved in your business at all. And all of a sudden they stuck their nose in, I think, where it didn't belong. I was not on the board at this time, but yet I attended many of the meetings where there was contention and rancor expressed between various factions of the district PAC. I was able to read the bylaws and understand what the issue was and actually spoke on behalf of the PAC in front of the board and actually wagged my finger and said, shame on you for even sticking your nose in this parent group's business. I honestly felt like they had no business whatsoever involving themselves in what amounted to almost a playground spat. I think that it could have been taken care of a lot better way. And so that's why we're here today, to kind of clarify what the board did, I would say to you, and what we would like to see rectified.
So we just saw the resolution where they said we're going to take the mention of district PAC bylaws out of anything. So that was on February 23rd, 2015. If you go to the Bridgeport Public Schools website right now, on your laptops or your phone, the parent engagement policy is still there referencing the district PAC bylaws. They're still on there as of today. And you have that before you guys. You see the parent and family engagement in the Bridgeport Public Schools, that policy. It has August 13, 2012 as the date. If you look, this is off the, I printed it off the public school website on March 17th. Do you see that in the lower right-hand corner? So although the board made that decision, it's the role of the superintendent to carry out any action taken by the board. As you can see here, we're 2 years later, over 2 years later, and it's still on the website. Am I right? February 2015? No.
Oh, no, this was
So 1 year.
1 year.
It's been a full year, over a year, and this is still, so if I was a parent and I didn't know that this happened, I would go to the Bridgeport Public Schools website and I would be reading this. Wouldn't I believe that we have a district PAC bylaw, that there's a district PAC committee? I mean, so you can see that this is clearly misleading and it's an issue on our own public school website. And then you'll look to, if you go, these district PAC bylaws that were eliminated, do you know they are also still on the Bridgeport Public Schools website over a year later? If you go to the Board of Ed, click on policies. The district PAC bylaws that were eliminated and banned are still on, so if I'm a parent and I'm looking for information, am I gonna believe that this is valid when it's up on our public schools website? Okay? So, again, you can check this yourself, forget me. You can go home and look at this on your computer. Now, why is this relevant? It's relevant because everybody here know that we are a Title I school district? So these are federal laws, okay? And so you know the state can never pass a law that supersedes a federal law. A local municipality can never create a law that supersedes a state or federal law. And the Board of Education can never create a policy or a law that supersedes a municipality, a state, or the federal government, okay? So, for those of you have Title I, the packet here, we're going to go to page 3. So I highlighted, first of all, everybody should know this because this is your rights under the federal law as parents. If you're a Bridgeport Public School parent, this is every right that you have under the federal law. And we are a Title I district. We receive millions and millions of dollars from the federal government on the condition that we follow all these laws. I mentioned at the board meeting of the last one that, what was it cited in 2008 about the migratory grant?
Right.
So we had a grant which was $2.3 million that we received. We didn't follow what's called the covenants or the laws that surround the grant. And because we violated those laws, they made us pay back every dollar of the $2.3 million. Am I correct, Ms. Baraka?
We did have to pay that money back, and we were no longer allowed to take part in the migratory process, which means that a considerable amount of money that was being used for our children we were no longer eligible for by the federal government because of the way it was appropriated. It was misappropriated.
So you guys should know, besides the ECS grant, federal Title I is really the largest grant that we receive. It's millions of dollars. When we violate a covenant or a law surrounding that grant, we are violating federal law, and we're placing over 21,000 children at great risk of losing money that's critical to this district. We get about an average of a little over $600 per child. You multiply that times 21,000 children. Okay? So you have a little packet here with the abbreviations. I took page 31 right out of the federal Title I law. This is the definition of a parent under the federal Title I guidelines. And so the term parent includes a legal guardian or other person standing in loco parentis, which is a legal term, right? That's not an everyday term. Loco parentis is a term that's used in court, okay? Such as a grandparent or step-parent with whom the child lives, or a person who is legally responsible for the child's welfare. So if you look, I also researched it, you'll see that it's a Latin term for in place of parent who has a legal responsibility of a person or organization to take on some of the functions and responsibilities of a parent. Believe it or not, the Bridgeport Public Schools 5 days a week acts as a local parentes on behalf of all the parents who put them in our schools. Because under the law, when they're in the public schools, we act as their parent in deciding that you're going to go to lunch now, you're going to do this. So we have it, but that's granted to us under legal authority, okay? So, and so that's on page 30 of the, and everybody has this in the executive board. Okay, now if you go to page 11 of the Title I covenants. Linda, do you want one? No. All right. If you go to page 11, look at C1. If LA is a local education association, guess who that is, guys? The Board of Education is your local education association, and they're called LAs, okay? So if you look at C1, it says LAs must, not may, must plan and implement these programs, activities, and procedures with meaningful consultation with parents of children participating in Title I Part A programs. That's us. If you go to C2 on the same page, each LEA that receives Title I Part A funds must develop a written parental involvement policy, which you guys just saw, that establishes the LEA's expectation for parental involvement. The policy must be developed jointly with and agreed upon with parents of children participating in Title I. So it's not just that we write it. You are at the table and you must agree to whatever's in that policy. So when the board arbitrarily decided, we're going to change the parent engagement policy, we're going to cut this whole thing out about the district PAC executive board, district PAC bylaws. Do they have a right to do that without parents' authority? No. Okay? And so they violated the covenants of the federal Title I law. Let's see. Then we'll go down to page 12, C6. There's just key things in here. I really highlighted things that you should know. For instance, you're at the beginning of each school year, we're supposed to inform parents of each student attending Title I school, their request for information. You can request information about your teachers and your paraprofessionals' qualifications. How many of you knew that? But what I'm saying to you is, this is not an option. The board, through the superintendent, who's our only employee, we only govern the superintendent, must make sure that all of these federal laws are carried out. And there's quite a few in here that are, and I highlighted some that where I thought were really important, and you guys can read that at your leisure. Let's see. And then we have page 22.
You skipped 12C6. You didn't speak on 12C6.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
That's I'm sorry. You were up to that.
So page 22. Okay, each school must develop jointly, you see that here, with parents of children, a written school parental involvement policy that describes how the school will carry out the parental involvement requirements. If the school already has a parent involvement policy, that applies to all parents. The school may amend the existing policy. Your partners, and the reason that Title I was created was specifically for poor urban school districts. How do we get parents more engaged in those districts in their child's education? How do we help educate those parents how to help their own child? So that was the purpose of Title I when it was created, to help impoverished communities. Greenwich, you know, they don't need a huge influx of cash, right? But poor, impoverished school districts do.
Yes, they do.
So you are, I'm sorry?
Greenwich does.
Okay,
We have some. Yeah.
okay.
We do.
You have some Title I,
Yes,
because
we
you have
do.
some impoverished students.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, but you don't have a large percentage of
We're
impoverished.
not daring in.
Yeah. So anyway, so what I'm saying to you, this is a Title I covenant. Also, if you look at the policy, this is board policy, the 1000 series. I'm going to open this up to questions, okay, guys? If you look at the one, if you look at page policy 1205, and the series 1000, that's the Board of Education's own policy. You can read also here, the school district, the last paragraph that's underlined in red. The school district will ensure that parents of children served in Title I Part A schools are involved in decisions about how funds reserved for parental engagement are spent, and will ensure that no less than 95% of 1% preserved goes directly to the schools. You can see there's a whole part there about parent and community engagement, which the board violated when it chose to arbitrarily. If you look at the next page, R1205, you see the policy that the board has to go through to change or alter the parent engagement policy? That it has to go to every single PAC and PTSO? That you as your parents have to weigh in, and then you have to come back to the board and say, well, we're voting for it, we're approving it, or we're not. So you see, we just can't change the parent engagement policy without you at the table and partaking in the policy. So when the board voted under the superintendent's recommendation to eliminate the district PAC executive board, when it was written into the parent engagement policy, when we have our own policy on how things are to be done, it violated federal law and it violated certainly our own board policies. Okay? So, do you want to take questions at this point, you think?
Well, yes,
Okay,
I think
go.
so. I would just like to say, we've skipped around.
We're going to get back to the money part.
Yeah, there are some things that we will go back and cover. We do not expect you to digest this whole thing. As I tell my students every day, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. But these are the highlighted portions that we feel like apply to what we feel like were egregious acts perpetrated on our parent group. The Board of Ed doesn't want to be managing you. That's not what we want to do. We want to give you, though, the opportunity to right the wrong that was created and do your business.
So I'm going to go into quickly the elections because it kind of ties into where I'm going with
Do you
this.
want to do questions?
No, this kind of ties in, I
Okay,
think.
get after it.
So if you look here, the next packet for the district pack is like invitations you were getting to meet with the superintendent. So you can see on June 18th, you received an invitation to a roundtable discussion to be held on June 18th, although no agenda was sent to the parents. So you're being invited to a round, but they're not telling you why you're coming, which I think, quite honest, is rather deceitful, in my opinion. Now, if you see, this is the notes of that meeting that were supplied, I guess, by Lisa Pavlik, who was asked to be here today. Did you receive information that Ms. Pavlik will not be here today? Did anybody here receive? So Ms. Pavlik, who is the liaison with the parent organization, was requested to be here through the administration, and we received no information that she would not be here tonight. So first of all, if you can see here, it says there were 28 parent leaders attended, but only 17 schools represented, okay? It says a lawsuit brought forward by Tammy Boyle and Maria Pereira has been dismissed by the Superior Court. First of all, our lawsuit was in federal court, so this is totally incorrect. Number two, a judge did not dismiss our lawsuit, we withdrew it. And there was a reason, because one of the key plaintiffs had kind of abandoned that litigation and we couldn't move forward. It wasn't because we didn't feel we had standing, we felt we were going to win, strictly based on the federal. That's why we went to federal court, because we were going after the federal law, okay? So you can see there's all this stuff going on here, and apparently a nomination committee was decided for the elections, some elections that were being held, but here's the issue. Once the Board of Education voted that the District PAC Executive Board didn't exist anymore, and that there was no District PAC bylaws, how could elections be scheduled when the board never voted to reinstitute a District PAC Executive Board or District PAC bylaws? The superintendent, and not any individual who works for the superintendent, can violate a vote of the school board. We govern policy for the entire school district. So although you guys met, and I guess there was a vote to have elections, what the superintendent should have done probably is come back to the board and said, well, the parents would like to have a District PAC Executive Board, so I'm asking the board to put this on the agenda and vote to reestablish a District PAC Executive Board. And if District PAC bylaws were readopted, which is kind of what it looks like here, I'm not even sure because it's unclear, you can't adopt District PAC bylaws because the board voted to eliminate. So nobody can supersede the authority of the board. Is everybody getting that? Then there was a meeting in September. Apparently, there were decisions made about who could serve in what capacity. There was going to be a nomination period, that there would be a committee vetting candidates. And my understanding is there was no nominating committee because one person never came back. And one person resigned because they decided to run for office. You guys will share whether that was true or not. So it looks like there was a committee of one person, which is troubling, making decisions. That's kind of like in Bridgeport, we have an election for mayor, and one person is making sure everything is done properly and no other eyes are looking at it. And so it looks like when this was all decided, we have 37 schools. There were 8 people who voted no, and 5. So 13 people made decisions for 37 different schools, which is nowhere near a quorum. I don't know how votes are being taken. Like today, we couldn't have any votes today. We don't have a quorum. The majority needs to be represented. I don't know how 13 people made decisions for 37 schools. Okay, so, and then here's a flyer about the elections that went out. And then the last thing is an email that was sent out apparently today about how all parents must stick together and we must all be involved and we must all, but I received complaints that many of the own executive board members didn't even receive the email. So it can't be, and me, that's hypocrisy. It can't be all of us working together, all need to be present, but the own executive board members aren't even receiving the email. So that I found troubling. So, so in our opinion, we feel the district PAC executive board elections were completely unlawful and have no standing because Fran Rabinowitz nor any of her administration has the right to do something different than that the board voted on, okay? If you guys want to have an election, it should have come back before the board, and the board would have voted, we're gonna reinstate a district PAC executive board, and we're gonna allow them to adopt whatever district old bylaws you wanted to use, because the board had already voted that those two things didn't exist, right? So how did, and I'm assuming this was led by the administration or staff associated with, how could they schedule an election when the board said, we don't even have this body doesn't exist?
More importantly, they had specifically replaced the executive committee of the district PAC with the presidents of each school's PAC. They had specifically made that
In the motion.
recommendation, voted on it, and passed that. So fundamentally, the district PAC is run by the presidents and PTSO presidents of the various schools. And that's the way it is right now. That is really what is clearly.
That's what should be existing today because the board hasn't said anything different.
We want to fix that.
All right, now the school PAC bylaws, if you'll notice again, that agenda said they were going to have a meeting to discuss district PAC leadership.
Right.
There was never any reference to changing school PACs or the school PAC bylaws.
Right.
So it's my understanding that members of the administration have been around saying we don't have any school PAC bylaws, so there's nothing that governs and we can do whatever. Well, that's completely untrue. You can read the word-for-word transcript yourself, and first of all, it would have been illegal for them to even do that. Because under the law, when you call a special meeting, the only thing you can discuss and take action on is the items on that agenda. And if you remember, the item was a discussion and possible action on district PAC leadership. Does it say one word about school PACs? So even if they did it, it would have been a violation of the state law, but they never did. There was no discussion on that night or in the resolution to eliminate school PAC executive boards or get rid of the school PAC bylaws. So the school PAC bylaws, which many of you have probably never seen because there's a lot of new faces, exist today. And you have a copy before you. They exist today. Now there's a lot of miscellaneous pages in the back. This was very expensive. I copied all this at my own cost. But there's a lot of samples and handouts that I did not put there that I can give to somebody and you guys can run them off if you want. But so you understand the school PAC bylaws exist and they have to be followed. Those are your governing documents, whether it was this board or the previous board. Until you change them, they exist and they stand, except that there was a mention to a district PAC bylaw in the last page. If you guys pull out the green packet, if you look at page, I'm sorry, if you look at, I think it's page 11. Do you see Article 6 on page 11? You see it says refer to District Parent Advisory Council bylaws. That was that conflict of interest clause that was created about being an employee or serving on a board or a committee of another education organization. So based on what they did, even though we think that was unlawful, right, because it was a violation of the federal law, I would say that that article doesn't exist right now in your school PAC bylaws, okay? So that would not, in my opinion, probably be standing, because remember they said any reference to district PAC bylaws no longer exists. So I think besides that, I think everything else in your PAC bylaws would be, school PAC bylaws would be valid. And then if we could just talk about the election itself. So most people here probably know that I live in the Thomas Hooker community, and my great nephew attends Thomas Hooker School, and my niece has her child there. And I know many, many of the parents of the community because I knock on doors every summer for whatever campaigns out there. And so I visited the school during the report card conferences. And I know quite a few of the parents because, again, I know them from the neighborhood. So I asked the homeschool coordinator when she got an opportunity to please make me one photocopy of everything that she had, including her instruction sheet and a ballot. And I asked her to make it when she had a chance, but she was literally standing outside the main office, so I guess she chose to just run in and make a copy. And that's fine. And she came back out, and I pulled a chair in the corner and kind of watched, and I was really disturbed by what I was seeing. So if a couple came in together, a mother and a father, they were told they could only have one ballot. So remember, one of the reasons that the District PAC Executive Board was eliminated was it was disenfranchising parents. If that was a protocol that was set up, you just disenfranchised half the Bridgeport Public School parents in the entire city of Bridgeport. When you go to vote at the polls for the governor or the president, and you're with your husband, do you both get one ballot?
No.
Because if I want to vote for the Republican, and you want to vote for the Democrat, do you have that right? So if somebody wanted to vote for Albert in that house, and somebody wanted to vote for Edgar, shouldn't they have the right to do that? So you're getting one ballot. So really, if you want to talk about disenfranchisement, you disenfranchise half the parents in the school. So then, I'm looking at the instruction sheet. I don't know if any of you ever saw this. This was the instruction sheet that was provided by the Parent Center to the homeschool coordinators and I guess the principals. It says one vote per family. Now, for those of you who don't know, the District PAC Executive Board elections had always been in a centralized location. And the reason that had to be is many parents have children in what? Multiple schools. So if I have a child who got into Park City Magnet, and I have one who didn't, so they're at Thomas Hooker. Now I have a high school student at Harding. If you print out a list at each school, how many times will your name appear on those lists? You'll be on every list. So how many times if you go to 3 report card conferences will you would be able to vote?
3 times.
But if I'm a parent that has 3 children in one school, how many times did I get to vote?
Once.
Do you see that? Do you see that as being equitable and fair? No. Okay. And then the last issue is, I would tell you, I've never heard of an election ever that goes over 2 days. When you go to vote every fall in the primary, do we do it over several days? No, because, and I'm going to tell you, one of the reasons the previous board moved the parent elections to the Parent Center is, if you're a parent running, and the election's held at Central High School, and you're a parent at Central, do you have an advantage over all the parents who are not from Central? Mm-hmm. So they decided to move it to a neutral location that could easily be controlled, and they had a lot of different eyes. Parents were there, Board of Ed staff was there. So this, to me, it doesn't appear that this election was run by parents. It was run by all administration and staff, homeschool coordinators, principals. That's so against what you stand for. For the parent organization is supposed to be all driven by parents. So I will tell you that the funniest thing I found was at the bottom. By using the roster, the amount of ballots handed out should match the amount of families' names crossed off. This is a check and balance, so extra ballots cannot be stuffed into the boxes. Well, if I wanted to just do 10 extra boxes, wouldn't I just fill out 10 ballots and then check off 10 names? What extra protection did that give you? Nothing. And then where were these ballot boxes stored at the end of the night? In the homeschool coordinator's office? Where? In the principal's? I mean, is that what we do in a regular election to make sure they have the highest ethical standards? So I'm telling you that I was dismayed by what I saw there. And for those, this says that you're going to put these bios on the bulletin boards, right? So when I walked into Hooker School, and I will pass my cell phone pictures around, they were literally laid on a little school desk on top of each other, like overlapped. You know, like nobody in their right mind was ever going to read that, right? You're all laid like this on a little school desk. And there was a big bulletin board right there, but they weren't even on display. But I would tell you, if anybody thinks the average parent who's rushing to get their report card for their child is going to read all extensive bios, they're not. So, and then I was disturbed to see the ballot itself, which you guys have a photocopy of. I've never heard of in my life that if 2 people run for office, whoever's the loser serves in another office. Has anybody ever heard of that? Yeah. So if we have somebody 2 people run for lieutenant governor, or for governor, is it automatic that whoever loses for governor then becomes a lieutenant governor? People voted for you to be in that position, and that position only. And then I found out that Mr. Benningham became a DCCR because he lost the bilingual election, but that's not even on the ballot. Doesn't even say that. It says nowhere that whoever lost a bilingual, was gonna become a DCCR. This to me is so outrageous. So if I have a child in 3 different schools, I get 3 votes. But if I have 3 children in the same school, I got 1 vote. And that you would say that half the parents in the city, you can't vote. The mother can vote today, but you can't vote as a father, or vice versa. Then I have to ask, we have so many parents who are not in the same home. Was it by address? Or was it by the child's name? It doesn't even specify here. So if I'm a father and mother who haven't been together for 10 years, we're at different addresses. You guys will let us know, because I honestly have no idea how that worked. And I think that's everything about the District PAC Executive Board, District PAC Executive Board elections, District PAC bylaws, School PAC Executive Board, School PAC bylaws. And now we're gonna open, are we good guys, opening this up and hearing what they have to say? We'd like to hear what your concerns are and your observations. Is there anybody who?
I would like to just say that, tonight is our night to have this discussion, because we anticipated having a quorum here so we could actually vote on these items after our discussion, so that you could begin the work that you need to do as parents that are engaged in our community. That was what our goal was. Because we don't have a quorum, we're still going to have this discussion, because we're going to include these items on the next Board of Ed agenda for the full board to vote on, and we won't have time to have the discussion at that time. So that's why we have you here today, that's why we've invited you, and that's why we've called this special meeting, so that you, the engaged parents of our kids, have the opportunity to express your feelings about what the Board of Ed did last year. I was there. I was in the audience for most of those discussions. I was appalled by what they did. I had no skin in the game, but yet they still took away your rights. And I'm not in favor of that. I will not stand by and watch people take away the rights, especially the rights of a parent who wants to be engaged in their child's education. So that's kind of where our plan is tonight. Am I right, Maria?
Yeah, I'm going to open it up to current District PAC Executive Board members, and after that, anybody who served in a previous District PAC Executive Board capacity who can offer insight. And I'm really concerned about this election thing, so if anybody can offer insight into that. And who would like to go first?
One last thing. We really want this, we're on your side, okay? We really want this to be a friendly discussion. We would like to keep the tone of our discussion in a positive fashion, if at all possible. Give each other a chance to talk.
Who would like to raise your hand and be recognized first? Rosie?
Rosie, yes.
Can you introduce? Oh well, no, we don't have to introduce yourself for the record. He's not here. Okay. But you might want to tell everybody in the room who you are. I'm
Rosie Jones-Clark, and I do serve on the District Executive Board as a DCCR. Mm-hmm. And I'm new to the district. When the entire election, I came to the roundtable discussion because I thought it was going to be something about, leadership as a parent, in the school, and I was very new. I'd been there for a very short time. And, to my surprise, when, I arrived, they began talking about elections and all of that. So I thought it was something that had already been, put on the table prior to my coming and all of that, and didn't know anything about all of what you are talking about tonight. And so during that process, I was a bit baffled by, a lot of the things that were sort of going on. And honestly, I felt like things were not being done properly. However, being new to the district, not knowing who to talk to, not knowing who to go to, whatever, I just talked to the ones who were there facilitating. Even sent some emails, with some concerns about the entire election process, and my husband and I both not being able to vote, and all of those things. So, and then when we would get the meeting minutes, they really didn't reflect the things that were truly discussed. It was the minutes were kind of skimmed over. The discussions were skimmed over. So and I brought that to my vice president at Central, and so all along I did not feel really good about what was happening. However, that's what happens when you don't know where to go, who to talk to about what you're feeling. And certainly we went through the entire election process, even the ballots, the box, and the, you know, and there were many parents who had concerns about that. You know, how are you going to make sure that people are not, you know, cheating? How, you know, why can't everybody have a vote as far as, you know, parents were concerned? So there was a lot of discussion around that. And I think the way that it was portrayed was, you know, you guys decide. It was always a feeling of, or I guess the word would be the deception of, you know, you guys are deciding, but we're sort of telling you what to do. You know what I mean? So someone said to me once, I told my husband concerning our child, you need to talk to our child. You can tell him what you want, but tell him this. Right? So it's like, you know, you're telling me I have freedom of speech, but yet this is what I want you to say. So it was sort of like, I felt, now I'm speaking for me, I cannot speak for all parents, I can only speak for me. And so I did feel as if there was, you know, some underlying deception there. And of course, you know, we went on with it because the majority voted on it and decided, and so the process was put into place. And again, as parents, when you do not have the tools or the ammunition to know where to go, you know, and how to get the answers, then you just sort of go with the flow because you think that the people who are there know what they're doing. And at this point, I truly, my opinion again, I believe that as a district executive board, it has not gotten off to a very good start at all. And there's been a lot of contention there. There's been a lot of, you know, words sort of going back and forth, maliciously talking about others. You know, for me, again, coming into this district, being very new to it, not expecting all of that. It has been sort of a dictatorship in a lot of ways. Very dissatisfied, personally, with how things have gone. Even with many of us, the majority of us, trying to really sit and work through some of the issues that we have been facing. When we go to a meeting, we set an agenda, and then, you know, when we then go to our district meeting, the agenda is totally different than what we had planned. You know, people are invited to come in to speak when, you know, the executive board said, no, we'd rather work on this. It has really, there has been talk about working together. However, when it's time to do that, the people, our president has not been willing to really work together with all of us. And you can't have a dictatorship, I don't care what you do. And also, if you have contention with others from your past, you know, I didn't know any of the people except for Michelle, you know, coming into the district, and got to know, you know, several of them. But you cannot have a dictatorship and when you're expecting to come in and to work together. I understand that we'll disagree, and that's fine. However, at the end of the day, there should be no criticism of whether or not you're a Christian. There shouldn't be any criticism in talking about hierarchy, you know, the president, the vice president, and the DCCRs are way down here and literally putting your hand down. There should be none of that, right? We're here to work together as parents for the betterment of our school system, for the betterment of our children, and I am totally, outrageously disgusted by some of the conversations that have happened, the way that the executive board is operating. You know, people outside of Bridgeport talk about Bridgeport, but my sitting in something like that, I can see why they would talk about Bridgeport. And it's not all of Bridgeport, it's a few people, and sometimes just one person who can ruin something for everyone, and especially for our children. So I'm at the point of, I came here tonight because I wanted to see the executive board or you know, our parents really get together, work together for the betterment of our children. There's so many issues that are going on in our school system. Our children have many issues, and for us to sit as adults, to sit and cannot agree upon anything, and to do it with courtesy, it's outlandish. It truly is. And you know, at this point, again, personally, I would like to see our executive board be dismantled, because I think that you have probably 8, 9 people on the board who are saying, this is crazy. You know, why are we going through this when we came here to volunteer? I leave work and work 12, 13, 14 hours sometimes, and then go to all these meetings to sit there and leave with nothing being done. And that's ridiculous, right? As parents, we should be on one accord, and we should be able to agree to disagree, vote, and then move on. But it becomes very personal for some people. They wear everything on their sleeve. They're crying one minute and say, I will do this, and then the next minute you go to a meeting and it's totally reversed. So I feel as though with our president that we have been working with someone who's schizophrenic. And I'm not saying that she is, but I feel like because of the way things have been going, you know, oh yeah, okay, and then you go back and it's like, it's totally different. So who was that person I just sat at that table last week with? And that's how we go home. And for me, it's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all.
Yeah, can I just say, good discussion, very informative.
Wow, that was a lot.
But moving forward, can we talk to the issue without using labels?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Let me just say that from what I've witnessed, prior to coming on the board and as a board member, it seems like that the PAC has the cart before the horse. You're trying to run your operation without bylaws. You're trying to run your operation without meeting rules. In my opinion, the actions that we could take to help you would be to help dismantle the hierarchy so that you can work as a group to form your own bylaws, so that then you can use those bylaws to re-elect a board that will work together. And for me, it doesn't matter if you elect everybody exactly in the same position that they're in. I'm not here about that. But let me just tell you that you and I share a lot in common, because I'm new at this too. Okay, I think I told you I never ran for a class, even for a class officer in school, and here I find myself running for the Board of Education. And we get at each other too. We do. Sometimes we may even embarrass ourselves and embarrass you.
We keep it in-house.
But what we try to do is we try to do it within the hierarchy of our system that we have in place of our bylaws and Robert's Rules of Order. And it sometimes comes across very messy, and sometimes it comes across as if we totally dislike each other. The thing is, we can dislike each other and still function as long as we have bylaws in place that spell out responsibility. Now, I feel your pain when it comes to serving on a board that's supposed to be an across-the-board equality board, and when not everybody sees themselves as equal. And I think that if we do take the actions that we're discussing here tonight, that when you set up your bylaws, that you can be very specific about what your executives of your committee have as far as responsibility. Here I am, I'm a newbie, and was elected as Secretary of the Board of Education without any qualifications at all, except for that I can kind of get along with people.
He's also a school teacher, but
regardless, having my name over here on the left-hand side of this letterhead with Secretary underneath it, and $2 to get me a coffee in my school cafeteria, it means nothing. It means nothing except for extra work. And when we as volunteers, us as volunteers, see that in ourselves and understand that we are not important by ourselves, where we are only important as a body of a whole. then we can really do some work. So you and I, we're simpatico, right? Okay, we share a lot in common, and I appreciate you spilling yourself and your soul today. I would like to caution, I try not to point fingers. I try not to. I'm not, if you were at Monday night's board meeting, you saw that I actually did some finger pointing, but when you point a finger at one person, remember the other ones are pointing back at you too. So I just want us to keep our discussions as civil as we possibly can. Thank you.
Well, I want to say, Rosie, that you obviously have given a lot of thought to what you wanted to say today, because you were quite prepared. I'm concerned because you said the minutes you were receiving didn't reflect the meetings. Who was taking your minutes?
I'm sorry, say it again?
You expressed that you would be at these meetings, and then you would see these minutes, and the minutes weren't reflecting what was said. Who was drafting minutes?
No. The minutes reflected what happened. But when we made decisions at our executive board, so the meeting minutes are great. However, when we go to our district PAC and we set our agenda up, now everything is different.
She means the old minutes from before the board.
Didn't you say that you were going to meetings?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're talking about initially, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the executive board.
He has church commitment he has to go to. I think that we need to make sure we give it more.
Well, but let me finish. I'm asking clarification on her comment. You're
I'm
the
sorry,
one who
you're
said,
talking
you were
about
saying
the-
that you were going to these meetings, and then you would get these minutes, and these minutes were not reflecting what occurred.
Right, you're talking about, yes.
I don't know,
Yes,
Okay.
so, actually, it's these minutes that we have here from the leader to leader, the round table, and when everything began, when I showed up on the scene, before the nominations
But
and
who
all
was
of
drafting
that.
the minutes? That's what I'm asking.
So there was a parent there who took some meeting minute notes, and then, they were handed off to, Lisa, maybe Rabinowitz, and then they,
Okay.
So I just want to say that if any of you have ever been to a board meeting, there's a 9-member board. Fran sits at the table with us, but she's not a board member. It's not her meeting. She's there as a support staff, so that if the board has questions, and she has all her top administrators in the audience at a board meeting, right? Because if we have questions, I would have to say, through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Rabinowitz, I have a question. And that's when Ms. Rabinowitz interjects, right? It's not her meeting, but she's there in a support capacity to the board. It's the same with you. You see, the staff doesn't tell you how to run your organization or how things are gonna go down. It's your job to run your organization. And when your support staff is needed, can you send an email for me? Can you draft a letter for our body? Can you contact the hotel and get prices? But they don't tell you how it's going. And I will tell you, I'm the only member of the Board of Education who was recently a member of the District PAC Executive Board. I was only on there for 6 months. And I have to tell you, it was a constant issue with the staff in the Parent Center. They would speak at the District PAC meetings, and I would have to say, but you're not a parent. You're not a parent, you weren't elected as a District PAC Executive Board member. Why are you speaking? They weren't asked to speak. They weren't even asked a question. They were just participate in the meeting like they were a member. You understand that the staff, the administration, is there to offer you assistance when you ask for it and when you need it. They're not there to tell you how it's going to go. Now, if they're telling you this is a violation of the federal Title I covenants, I would look into that, right? You don't want to do anything. You won't violate the federal law. Okay, so I'm concerned that a staff person was doing minutes for a parent meeting. Who was, Angel, were you next?
Yeah.
No, actually,
Oh, no, I think he had his hand up before. Okay.
Thank you. My name's Angel Rector of the DCEI. I want to thank my parents to come out first,
Okay.
but I also want to talk about the election. But you guys know that my parents, most of them, are out of district. That's why I wasn't in favor of different school. I was in favor of one place, so I can tell my parents come and vote there.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're busting out, like, Skane School, those kids are busted in there.
So where did they vote?
what I'm asking here. So what I'm saying is, it should be in one place when you vote, not all different schools. My parents come from different places.
So
They go out of district.
I'm concerned, are you saying that all the special ed students that don't have a home Bridgeport school, that because their name was not on a school roster, had no place to vote?
When I try to ask, where would they vote? They couldn't give me an answer. So for me, that was a problem.
Well, with a properly drawn set of bylaws, it'll spell out what to do with your election too. And I really do think, I mean, I have read the bylaws that were thrown out by the Board of Education last year. I don't see serious problems with them. But if I were given the opportunity, I would probably mirror them off of some other bylaws that I've seen. Yeah, and I know that the work had begun, and we're hoping that through this process, it may be painful at times, but through this process that we can get that rectified for sure. Because disenfranchising anyone should be the opposite of our goal. And so I did not realize that there were so many different places that were assigned for the voting. I thought when I read that, I misread it. I thought it was for the school PAC. I didn't realize it was the
district PAC, every school.
I can understand the desire to make it convenient, but when you make it convenient, you do open it up to a lot of different problems. And as you can see, we've got a problem here. We had problems as Ms. Pereira has already described.
Who had their hand up over here, Albert?
Me and this new, I'm Albert Benham, I'm one of the DCCR, and we here in the district for almost 10 years. This is not my first time. For me, I face a shame we need to go through all this. We all be bilingual secretary for so many years. We were Tommy Boy, we were Mr. Resto, we were one of the old, like the way they call it, the old district pack. We never go through all this. Sometimes we agree when I agree stuff like that, but it's a shame having new members and then they need to go through this. And just like my mom and my grandfather said, when a bad potato, one potato's in the back, that bowl potato want a whole bag be bad. So we try to work together and have this thing done. And it's a shame we have this experience because I'm not perfect. No one here is perfect. We agree when disagree. They don't respect me and they don't respect the rest of the board. All right. So when they talk about one of the district pack, one of each of, it's offending me too, because we together. We always use we. We never use the I. Thank you.
Is there any other current district PAC executive board member who would like to speak? Okay, who's next? Are you okay with ladies first, or?
I'm okay with her. She's my friend also.
Okay.
So, yes.
Can you introduce yourself again?
Yeah, I'm Cynthia Infante. I'm the recording secretary. I have a little bit of a different experience. I'm a new mom. I only have a kindergartner, so I have nothing to do with anything that ever happened in the past. I have no problems with anybody. Doesn't matter to me. I wasn't involved in it. I, until very recently, was in favor of our leadership. I thought everybody has things to work out, but that's life, including myself. I was very much in favor with who sits at this table presently. And then recently, I was told that I am another member's puppet. I can't think for myself, and I'm a bad Christian. Never in my life, as a parent or a person, have I ever been insulted that way. That is totally off limits and completely wrong for anybody to say anything like that. This letter that says special attention parent leaders, I'm a president at my school, not to mention, like I said, on the executive pack, I never received this because the person who sent it thinks I'm against her and I'm with the other side. I think all of that needs to be removed. We all need to work together regardless of differences you have, and I was on this person's side. I fought for her, I defended her, and until very recently, I was told I was no longer allowed to. When I emailed and text messaged and called her today asking why I did not receive a parent letter, I was ignored completely. The email was ignored, the call was not answered, and the text message wasn't answered, when it clearly says, please feel free to call me or email me with any questions. I don't appreciate being lumped into another group because I associate with those people. I don't think that's fair. I'm my own person. I can think for myself, surprisingly, apparently. I have my own opinions and my own feelings. And if I have ever said something, it's because I believe in it, not because somebody's told me to believe in it. So that's how I feel. I feel we want parents to be involved. And then as a kindergarten mom, this is what I'm going through. And I can see why parents don't want to be involved. I can absolutely see. Because to have somebody that I considered a friend say those things to me in a leadership role makes me not want to come back. And that's why other parents aren't here. That's why we don't have more parents sitting here fighting for our kids at every meeting possible because of reasons like this.
Edward?
Thank you for your speech.
Do you like to be called Ed or Edward?
That's fine.
Ed is okay?
Yeah, you can call me.
Okay.
Hello, my
I
name is
hate when
Ed.
people call me Marie, that's why I asked.
Okay, Edward, my lingua secretary. I think that we have lost focus here. I think that I would have loved to come to a meeting so we can talk about the kids in my school that are under level, that are performing under the level that they're supposed to. I would hope to be talking about what we're going to do with the $15 million deficit that we're going to be having next year. I would hope that we would be talking about solutions to the problems that we have in the district. And yet we are talking about parents. We've been coming from crisis after crisis and after crisis. And sometimes we say that the Board of Education doesn't have jurisdiction over the parents, and yet we are in a meeting by the Board of Education telling us what was wrong and how the Board of Education will fix the problem. We are supposedly independent, and the Board of Education is telling us that we are going to fix the problem. Is that independency? I don't see it. I have great respect for the members of the Board of Education that are here right now. I do. I have differences in terms of some positions that some have taken in the past. But most of the time, I agree with the positions that the board members have taken in the meetings that I've been into. And I'm not taking it personally. This is not a personal matter. We're talking about our kids, our children, our education. And sometimes we confuse our personal issues with a collective issue. I see these more as a personal thing than as a collective thing. Yes, there has been some mistakes in our new district pact, mistake that have been done by all of us together. But the Board of Education right now is also split into two. You cannot tell us that we are disorganized when you are yourself disorganized as well. Why do we have only 4 members today? That shows a lot about how splitter you are. So you cannot tell us that we're doing something wrong when you are our example of how an organization is being run. So instead of having this kind of meeting, I think that a better approach would have been come to our meeting and say, how can we help? How can we work together? How can we help our kids? In my school, we have a lot of kids that are having problems. Right now, all kinds of issues. Columbus School is going into turnaround commissioners network, and because it's been failing year after year. But you know what? But we want that. Parents, we do really want that, because that means that we're going to have more resources. And we ask you to please support us, because we've been failing year after year after year after year. And when is it that we're going to really pay attention to the kids, and not because you are part of that group and she's part of that group, and then you know. So at some point we have to sit together and see, well, how we can focus on education and our kids, and not really personal vendettas and stuff like that. I mean, Jessica is the president of the district park right now. She's not perfect. And I don't hope her to be perfect. And she has made some mistakes, and I have too, and everybody here. But that's life, and that's human nature. But we have to understand that there's a way that we can differ among ourselves, and at the same time we can work together. So that's what we are asking from you. Instead of being a judge right now, a trial that this has got to be dismantled, instead of dismantling our body here, why don't we just come together and you know, and how can we make it better so we can serve the parents, we can serve our children?
Well,
I think it's a very violent way, the way that you have come to us with it.
I didn't say you had this spoken yet, did you?
I just would
Mr.
say
Rocca
that,
hasn't spoken yet.
I would just say that,
Ms. Rocca, can you tell me a little about your history with school tax?
probably people already know. I was a very involved parent for 30 years in the school district. I sat on my elementary school children's PAC as a co-chair, and then I went to the high school with them, and I was on the executive PAC for the high school. And so I played a very intricate role over the course of the years before coming on the board to be a board member. I worked at a time when we had no homeschool coordinators, so we as parents used to take the list of students' names and call parents. So I had a weekend, that was my weekend to call parents, to get on the phone and speak directly to parents in my school and give them information, update them, and get them involved in the process. I am very parent-oriented. I still have a child in the district. I have 2 grandchildren in the district. I tell people all the time that, especially our staff, that if there were no parents, there would be no schools. No need for a Board of Education, no need for teachers or principals or anyone. We're the most important people here at the table, and our children are the most important commodity that we have. They're our future. The Board of Education meets twice a month for the most part, and then we have a significant number of committee meetings to address all the issues that you can imagine. Anything from our finances to our buildings, our policies, student engagement, parent engagement, you name it, we do it. And the goal is to address all of the issues. That's what we do. We're about the business of operating the school district for 22,000 children per state statute. I was one of the people who vehemently opposed